Yo, 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 we are back with another episode of Leef with the Legends podcast. Today, I'm joined by a Fond du Lac legend, Marquette University legend, Italian EuroLeague legend, TBT $1 million tourney winner, two-time Italian Cup winner, and a two-time Italian All-Star, man. I'm joined by the big homie, Travis Diener, man.
Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to this one, man. You know, your basketball journey is great. You know, it runs deep. You know, within the obviously within Wisconsin, but you know, obviously worldwide, which we're gonna get into. But you know, early on, man, just you know, the Diener family, it resonates. You know, throughout the state. You know, when it comes to Wisconsin basketball. So, you know, growing up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, what were some of those like defining moments that help you, you know, that help spark that passion for basketball for you?
Well, like you said, yeah, I was very fortunate to grow up with uncles and older role models that were heavy into basketball. And obviously, a lot of people in the Milwaukee area know my uncle Tom with his time at at Vincent, where he had an incredible amount of success, and then at Hamilton, and then finished up at Cedarburg. But my other uncle Dick was my high school coach and was always in the gym. And you know, for me, me and my cousin Drake, who ended up playing at DePaul and had a lengthy career overseas, the value for us was competing against our older cousins and our older uncles growing up, and it gave us a sense of humility because we were always the worst players on the court because we're playing, our older cousins who are 3, 4 years older than us, our uncles who are, grown men, and we always took the brunt of the blame if we lost, even though we probably only touched the ball 1 or 2 times a game. But it really taught us how to compete, and I think it gave us both an edge uh, on the court that nothing was going to be given to us. So the younger days of me are just being in the gym with my family, competing, and just learning the game at a level that was very fortunate to be a part of because I got to learn it at such a young age. So family holidays and stuff like that always resembled some sort of competition, whether that was basketball or something else. So, I think if the Diener name has always been resonated with competitor and competition, and that's kind of how I learned it at a young age.
Yep. No, for sure, for sure. And you know, at that younger age, you know, when you got to be in high school age, you know, you play AAU for Playground Warriors. Let's talk about that team, mainly that the one that went to Peach Jam, and some of the players that were on that team, and like how did playing at that high of a level, kind of prepare you for the rest of high school and then college and then professionally.
It was huge. AAU was so different back then. It's
Hmm.
gotten way watered down now, and the product is kind of diluted because, and it's good that everyone's still playing, but back then, you kind of had to be hand selected to play. And, I was in my bubble. Me and my cousin Drake were kind of in the bubble up in Fond du Lac, just playing with our classmates and we had really good players, but it was just a Fond du Lac, essentially a feeder team, and we'd travel around the state and play. We'd travel to Illinois and play, but for both of us, we needed a higher level of competition at certain points. So I think it was 14 years old. Playground had asked both of or asked me, I think initially to come down and play, and then Drake, and then just coming down twice a week for practices, and then getting the opportunity to play on that team and travel the country and compete in the highest level tournaments was incredibly. It was just a great experience, and we didn't have the most talented team, even though we won the most. But guys like Deontay Tatum, Joe Tucker, the Chapel brothers. We even had we had Carl Landry was on our team. We ended up having the most productive NBA career, but he didn't even play for us. That's how
Right.
kind of you know good we were as a team. But it was a great mix of guys. We were coached well. We played the right way, which was very unusual at the AAU level.
Mhm.
And ultimately, we found a lot of success, and we won Peach Jam, which, as you know, is a really incredible feat. But I still have relationships with those guys today. I see Deontay all the time. I talk to Joel all the time. So when you win, I think in any with any team, those teams are the reason you win is because of a sense of togetherness and chemistry and those relationships. And that was 30 years ago, and I still have meaningful relationships with all those guys because we did win and we did play the right way. So that gave me the confidence that I could play at a high level, succeeding in Peach Jam, succeeding across the country. That I might have a bright future playing collegiate basketball.
No, for sure, for sure. So playing at that high of a level, finishing up your senior year, having a great career, at Fond du Lac High School. What ultimately made you choose Marquette for college, and what other schools were in the running?
Yeah, mainly it was my relationship with Coach Crane, which was huge. He recruited me from the very beginning and hard, and the style of play was a major reason. I knew I'd have the ball in my hands. We'd play up tempo. It came down, and I wanted to stay close to home. So
Hmm.
it ultimately came down to Marquette, Wisconsin, and for me it was a style of play that kind of was the overriding factor. Wisconsin was a great program. They had just come off a Final Four in 2001, I believe. And Coach Bennett was there at that time. It would have ended up being Coach Ryan would end up coaching me if I would have went to Wisconsin, but it was with Coach Bennett, and the style of play just wasn't ideal for me. I wanted to play a system that would get up and down, and so ultimately I chose Marquette, and it was ended up being the best decision for me personally, and it was mainly because of the deep relationship I had with Coach and the style of play.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned Coach Crean, and I know now, you're coaching, your player development, like you're still in, you're still in the basketball world. So, like, what are some of the values and kind of lessons that he instilled in you that you now transfer to the players that you work with?
Yeah, I thought even nationally that Coach did as good a job as anyone at developing players. I think each guy that he was very hard and demanding, and if you stayed 4 years, you're going to see a major return. Now it wasn't easy, but I think if you stayed the skill development part, you were going to get better and you were going to learn how to play. And he always prepared you for the future. And I had no idea when I got there when I was a freshman that I'd even sniff an opportunity to play in the NBA. But that's how much better I got over the course of 4 years. And I think he had a vision, and he saw a vision in me that I didn't even see in myself when I first got there. And I think and I'm not the only one. There was other guys. I mean, obviously when Dwayne got to college, he was not projected to be. I mean, he really had no offers. So the fact that he's one of the greatest of all time just shows the development side of it. And some of those things that he taught us, I've carried over to how I train, how I coach. You learn from everybody. I learned from teammates that I've had. I've learned from my uncles growing up, from my parents. You learn from everything. You take a piece of kind of the experiences that you've had, and you try to translate and try to carry them to the younger generation. I've been very fortunate to kind of move into this new role of trying to help kids get better, and so I use things from everybody.
No, for sure, for sure. So, during your time at Marquette, you're in top three for most 3 pointers made and for assists. So, which one of those achievements are you like most proud of, and why?
Well, I think assists. I think naturally as a point guard, I think the position's gotten a little different over the years, and even for me, I think my last 2 years of college, people saw me as more of a scorer, and that's not. I think that was more out of necessity to try to help our team win. I've when I went overseas and played, I was more of a pass first point guard, and I think when the point guard can get everybody else involved, it helps everyone feel better. If the point guard's going out shooting 20 times, I don't know how many guys really want to play with that guy.
Yeah.
So I always took a lot of pride in getting others involved and making my teammates better, being a leader on the court. So for sure the assists, but ultimately at the end of games, if you're a guard or you're a competitor, you want the ball in your hands. You got to be able to make big shots too, and you kind of take what the defense gives you. But if I had to pick one, I always enjoyed the success of my teammates and trying to make them better, because I think that's how you're judged as a point guard is how you can can make your guys feel and make your guys improve and feel like they're very confident on the court.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. From one point guard to another. I agree with you on that one. So let's get into that 2003 Final Four run. So kind of reflecting on that season, like what are some of the things that made that team so special?
I mean, we had a toughness about us. We had great size, so there's some obviously some things that you can see on paper on tape that uh, are easy to look at and say, well, no wonder they were good. We were extremely talented, but we had a lot, we had size at every. We started. Dwayne, myself, Todd Townsend, who was 6'7" at the three, Scott Merritt 6'10" at the four, and then Rob Jackson at the five, who was 6'9". Then you bring off the bench, Novak 6'10", Terry Sanders 6'7", and Joe Chapman. Those were really our top eight. Joe's 6'4", so a lot of size, a lot of length, which can be disruptive defensively. We had a physical and mental toughness about us that developed over the course of that year with the help of the motivation from coach and making us better. And ultimately, we just had a really, really great unselfishness collectively, and that usually starts with your best player. And Dwayne was really unselfish, and he probably could have tried to average 30 points a game, but he would always make the right play. He didn't force many things. So when your best player has an unselfishness about him, it kind of goes through everybody. And so I think those were kind of the main reasons we had the success we had, and we're fortunate enough to make a deep run in March.
Yep. Yep. And kind of talk about the tournament, like what, like round by round by round, like how does the pressure increase? Like what is obviously I know y'all were Nike sponsor back then. Like I know you get more and more gear, different shoes. So like kind of go into more depth, as to like what the tournament really entailed.
Yeah, I mean, back then, like that was what you said there. The more and more gear really resonated with us, and it shouldn't. But you don't know any better. You don't know really how big the tournament is. Like you don't know how many people are following. You don't know what you're kind of accomplishing when you're in the moment. When you're 20 years old, you're kind of just going day by day, and you're seeing reactions. But social media wasn't big, and
Right.
you just don't understand the magnitude of it all until now, until you get older and you see, wow, Marquette hasn't been back to the Final Four since 2003. We're still celebrated quite a bit, and so while you're going through, you don't know. We knew that if we made it to the Final Four, we'd be a Nike elite school, which was huge, which meant more of everything. But
Yeah.
you had to make the Final Four. But we started off, and in the tournament, you need everybody to step up at some point, and Dwayne struggled in the first game, and we had a nail biter, and fortunately, we were a 3 seed. Holy Cross. I mean, it was a very close game. We ended up winning by, I believe, like 4 points, and that game could have went either way. Second round, we play a very, very talented Missouri team. We win in overtime. So as you go, you need some things to go your way. It's
Yeah.
never easy. People think like because you're a high seed, like you should go to the Final Four or Elite Eights, but it's all matchup based, and if you don't perform in the game, you're out. And it's not like you get a best of three, a best of five series where you can try to feel each other out. No, it can be the magnitude of it all can get to teams. And I think us losing the year before in the first round gave us some experience on what it felt like, and that kind of pushed us over the top in round one. And then I think after the first game, you kind of there's a pressure that's relieved from you, and you're like, all right, let's just go out and play. And we had a tough road. We had to beat Pitt in the Sweet 16, who was physical and tough, and just a back and forth game. And then obviously our best game we played was the Elite Eight game against Kentucky, who was the number one team in the country, had won, I believe, 26 straight games. But there was an arrogance that they were carrying about themselves that I think we took real personal. And it was the best game we played all year. And unfortunately, the week after was probably the worst game we played all year. But that's the tournament.
Yep. No, for sure, for sure. So I got a hypothetical, Trav. Okay, given let's just like put yourself into now, like nowadays age with NIL and whatnot. Well, hypothetically, what would you?
A lot of money.
You don't want to put a dollar amount on it.
Lots
Just a
and
lot of.
lots of money. Well, I mean, in my current state, I'm the executive director at Marquette for NIL, so I know what
Oh, yeah.
I know what the Marquette guys are making, and so like to have a sense of kind of the market in that sense, I know that especially after the Final Four, geez, we might have been able to convince Dwayne to come back, but yeah, it would have been a lot of money, but it's good that today's players are capitalizing on their name, image, and likeness. It's obviously a weird dynamic, and it's kind of the wild, wild west. And I think they need to get some regulation about it. But yeah, to answer your question, it would have been a head start for me.
I got you. Say less. I got you. All right. Before we get off of Marquette, I got one question regarding the jersey number change. So you went from 10 to 34. Like, what was the significance in that change?
Yeah, I was 10 in high school, and then I was my freshman year. I was number 10, but during my freshman year in September, my half brother passed away, and that was his number when he was in high school, 34. So after my freshman year, I changed to 34 for the rest of my career, and tried to have 34 for my professional career. But when you go to different teams, numbers are retired, numbers aren't
Yeah.
attainable. So, but yeah, that was the reason for my change in college.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So in 2005, you're drafted, number 38 overall by the Orlando Magic. So kind of talk about like hearing your name called and then moving forward, how did you adapt to the NBA's demand?
Yeah, I mean, here draft night was probably the most fulfilling nights of my life, just because I don't know if I ever expected it. And like people say that they dream about playing in the NBA when they're little, and I never did that. I dreamed about playing for my uncle in high school, because that to me was like the NBA. So when I got to college, and coach was like, you'll have a chance to play after college if you keep working, working, working. Then it became more of that's a goal of mine. But it was never a dream of mine. But draft night, being around family and friends, and just the culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice from others to make me better and to guide me, was something I'll never forget from a personal standpoint. Now, obviously, there's been greater moments collectively with teams and stuff like that, but individually, that was a moment I'll never forget. And to be honest, nobody could ever take from me. And it was, I think, a lot of people took a lot of joy in that night, because they realized how hard it was for everybody to get to that point. The transition to the NBA is really hard, especially for a guy like me who's not the most physical guy. So the game is more physical, it's faster. I think I would translate better to today's game, where it's the freedom of movement is easier. It's you kind of just bomb threes, and
Yeah.
back then it was different. It was more physical. The point guards were absolutely fantastic, but I learned a lot about myself, and I had a 5 years in that league, just getting better and better. And some years I was playing a lot, some years not so much. And I took a lot from every experience and tried to just get better and grow. And ultimately, felt like my best path after that was to go play and play a lot and be a meaningful player again. And that happened just to take me to Italy.
Yeah. So that's a great segue. So what were some of those like kind of shocks and adjustments, from okay, you're going from NBA to EuroLeague now. So like what were some of the similarities and the differences?
Yeah, I mean, I think overseas ball is a lot more fundamental. It's below the rim. I think it's more team oriented. In the NBA, you have your stars, and your
Yeah.
stars are getting the ball, and they're shooting the shots, and ultimately there's probably 25 stars, and the rest are you gotta know your role, and be great at your role. Overseas, if people track overseas, the best teams over there, they have like five guys, six guys, average between usually 9 and 13 points.
Yeah.
and it's a great brand of basketball. It's what I think basketball was built on and how it was supposed to be played. Um, I might be biased, but I think it's if you there's a lot of to learn by watching that kind of brand of basketball. It fits my game better. So I had an my experience over there was incredible, and I tell people all the time the atmosphere, the fans, it was more like college because every game meant something. But you know, the NBA is the best league in the world, and I'll never say anything different. The best players in the world play in the NBA. They're there right now. It's just for me personally, I had a much better experience overseas probably because I played a lot more. And it meant more to me, but nothing to take away from what I got to experience in the NBA. Because that was uh, the best.
Yep. Yep. And so over in Italy, representing any national team is a unique honor. But how did it feel like to compete on an international stage and like while representing the internet or the Italian national team?
Yeah, well, I mean, I realized I've been always pretty self aware of how. I mean, obviously, I think everybody thinks they're better than they are, and I'm no. I think that as well. But I
Yeah.
realized that I was never going to play with for the USA team. So my wife's Italian, and both her parents were born there, and so as I got to playing over there and having some success, the federation had reached out to me about gaining my citizenship, and I acquired my citizenship through my wife's family. And then, yeah, it was cool, to put on a jersey to represent some, especially from my wife's side of the family, to play in the European Championship was an honor. And not a lot of, players get to represent a country. You're not just representing yourself or an organization or a team. You're representing a huge population. So it was a really cool experience and something I didn't take for granted then, and I don't take for granted now.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. That's amazing. So, what inspired your decision to come out of retirement in 2017, and then how did it feel like returning to the game after stepping away?
Yeah, it's a great question. I retired in 2014 and I was only 32, and it had been a buildup of a lot of years of work, and you go overseas, and those overseas years are long. You leave in early August and you don't get back if you're on a good team till middle to late June, so there's
Yeah.
no really recovery. And then I played in, like you alluded to, I played in the national team, so there's a full year where I really didn't come back. And then I had I was married, and then we had one kid and then another kid, so I was missing that time to be home with my young kids. So it played a toll on me mentally. And so I said, initially I was like, I was just going to take, 6 months off. You know how it is. People come back and they sign to go back overseas around Christmas. And my idea was I wanted 6 months, and then I'll find a team at Christmas and go back. But in between all that time, Coach Wojo had asked me to get on staff at Marquette, and felt like an easy transition from playing to still being around the game. And uh, spent 3 years at Marquette, and I just missed it. I knew I missed playing, and ultimately, I had another opportunity to go try to prove myself at 35 years old to go back and play, and it was really, really difficult at the beginning. I thought it was going to be a lot easier, but when you take 3 years off, and you're not playing, you're not competing, you're not preparing to compete. I felt like it goes back to I felt like I was a lot better than I was, and I got there in the first 6 to 8 weeks. I won't swear, but I was terrible, and I was contemplating my decision. Went to the coach I have a great relationship with. He was the only coach I had overseas, so he was my coach the 4 years before that. I said, "Look, you don't have to play me. I just sit me. I'm not there yet." And he thankfully believed in me, and saw something that you're going to turn around, and it turned around almost in the flip of a switch, and I had a great year that first year. Ended up having a great year, and then I played 2 more years over there, and it was fantastic. The older you get, the more you cherish those things. My kids got to see me play, and ultimately I might still be playing over there. But COVID hit and kind of shut the season down and kind of ended my career. But I enjoyed every minute, especially those last 3 years. Like I said, the older you get, the more it means, the more you reflect. And I'm not the player I was, when I was in my early 30s, but it didn't even matter. I still impacted the game, and I saw myself more in a leadership role and just kind of building relationships with my teammates, which I became a lot better at than I was earlier in my career.
Mm, gotcha. Yeah. Really, really embrace that vet role, right? Yep.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
oh,
it's when you're young and you don't have the right perspective, you kind of just worry about yourself, and I think naturally for everybody. And then once you realize, like, it is about the relationships, and that's how you win and how you win big. I think I've become a much better I become a better player because of that. And it had nothing to do with how many points I scored or how many assists I got. It became because I was just there, and I was a leader and a vet, like you said. And these guys could look for me for advice because I had been through a lot at 37, 38, 39. I'd seen pretty much everything.
yep. Yep. Facts, facts. So basketball has always been like a central part of your life, right? So how do you balance basketball in your career and family life now?
It's hard, and luckily I found a woman that can deal with it, and she knows how competitive I am. And even when I'm coaching my daughters now, I've a seventh and fifth grader. I'm really hard on them, and sometimes I have to take a step back and realize that it's not as they probably won't have the they probably won't want it as much as I want it for them, or how much I wanted it. And that's hard. It's very difficult. And so the balance for me, to answer your question, it has been difficult. I'm not even gonna say it hasn't. Like, I'm a I'm a maniac when it comes to competition, and I'm a sore loser, and I think I think everybody is. But it's you try to separate coach from father, and I think my uncle did an incredible. I admire him for that. He was our coach, and he was as maniacal about winning as well. But as soon as the game was over and he would drive us home or practice, it was gone. And I always admired him for that. And uh, something I have to continue to try to get better at. And I'm not coaching anything that really matters, anyways. I'm just trying to get the girls better. So I've kind of just reflect quite a bit and just try to see how I can help these girls, or hopefully one day my son when he gets older, just to be better. And but it's been difficult.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And like you said about your uncle, like that's a gift. That's a specific talent in itself to be able to switch it and go from coach to dad or coach to uncle or like because now I'm starting to coach my son and sometimes in the car I'm still harping on something that he didn't do or that he did do in the game. So for that I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm gonna be more intentional about the role.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's and I've gotten better with my seventh grader, and I don't know how much she loves basketball yet, but she likes it, and she's getting better, and I think that's all that matters. But as a father, you just want it to maybe go a little faster. But yeah, it's not easy, but I think I'm getting better at it day by day, and just learning to try to enjoy their youth and their the joy that they have in just playing. Because as you get older, it gets a lot more serious, and
Yep.
you never want to lose. I don't know if I ever lost the joy for playing, and I always felt like a little kid when I was on the court. But it does become more serious, probably because people make it a lot more serious than it really is. And
Yep.
there's a lot of parents out there that um, need to take a step back and let their kids enjoy it, because if they don't have the passion for it, it's not going to matter anyways. So
Yep.
I think you help develop that passion by letting them enjoy it first, and then when they get to a point in their life, then you can really nail down and try to take it more serious. But if they never get to that point, then you're just kind of beating yourself up.
Yep. 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 Yeah. And then being ultra competitive is tough, but we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out. So Trav, man, out of all your career milestones, Final Four, playing in the NBA, Italian Cup MVP, we didn't even touch on the TBT winner. Winning that. What stands out for you, or I guess not as a defining moment, but maybe as a couple defining moments?
Yeah, I think you touched them all. I mean, we've touched them all. It's kind of your the journey for me is kind of broken up into segments. In high school, it meant something totally different to me because I got to compete with three of my cousins. My cousin Drake, in particular, was like a best friend to me. So we got to play side by side. I got to play for my uncle. Fond du Lac's a small community, so
Yep.
there'd always be a bunch of people at the games, and it felt like a very heightened experience. And then you move to college and you accomplish something that hasn't been accomplished in a long time, and hasn't been accomplished in a long time after us, and that's going to the Final Four. And uh, in a very difficult setting. I mean, I can't stress the 4 years, and you can talk to, I mean, you had Joe on last week. I don't know if you got into that, but like, even if you talk to Dwayne, he said it publicly. It was hard, and you dealt with a lot of adversity. So going through that adversity, you find a connection with all those teammates, and we still have that to today. They're some of my closest friends, and we still have a group chat, and it's mainly now just ripping on Coach Crane, which is good because it's come full circle. But that was a different point, and then you get to like professionally, especially in Europe, in Italy, when you have a family and you have a wife and then you have kids, and like that's why the TBT meant a lot to me. Is not because of, I mean, obviously winning $1 million is great, and uh, being a part of wearing the Marquette jersey in a small degree again, but more so, I got the opportunity to have my kids see me play, because when you're going through it, and if you don't have, I didn't have kids until I was 30 years old, so I didn't have them super young. They didn't see me compete or perform and see what dad loves to do. And so that was a different meaning. So if I could answer your question, probably the latter, only because my kids got to see me play somewhat, a little bit, not to the level that I was when I was younger, but they still saw me and saw what I love to do, and saw me for the passion that I had playing basketball. And I hope one day that whatever they may do, that they could find the passion that I had in playing basketball, and work for. So I think that meant the most to me, but maybe that's because it's most recent as well. And so I've been very blessed and fortunate to have a long career, and a lot of these moments like we've talked about.
Yep. No, I love it. I love it, bro. Love it. And you've mentioned, D Wade, a couple times. So can you talk about the Wade versus Diener initiative that you guys have?
Yeah, it's always meant a lot to Dwayne, is children's literacy, and,
Hmm.
and him and his sister, and mainly his sister, has started this foundation, and for kids in southeastern Wisconsin, and just raising the awareness, and for kids that don't have the opportunity to be around books, or the opportunities to learn how to read better, which is obviously a skill that you need to be successful. You need to learn how to read, and you got to have the opportunities to do that. So it's taken off, and we've had golf outings, basketball camps, galas, and just to raise money, and it's we want to continue to do that every year. It gives Dwayne a chance to come back to Milwaukee, and I think it means a lot to him because he comes back here where we've known him for who he is back 20 years ago, and so we enjoy the weekend, but ultimately it's just to raise awareness around children's literacy, and just an opportunity to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I was able to, be a part of the event, this past summer is great. Just to see the support, around it, and obviously, raise money for a great cause. Is dope. It's dope. So, props to y'all for that initiative, and I hope it continues to grow, because, like you said, the children in southeastern Wisconsin, they need that. They need that, and it's a skill that you it's a necessity, in order to be successful. No matter what you're doing. So, continue props to y'all on that for sure.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yep, no doubt, no doubt. So moving forward, like now, post career, like what role do you see yourself like playing and continuing to grow the game of basketball in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've during COVID, me and another guy built this sports complex in Mequon, and so I'm there every day, and I get the opportunity to be around basketball, which is great because I we've talked about the passion I have for it. And now
Yep.
it's kind of just trying to mentoring and training younger athletes to try to reach their goals, whether that's have a successful high school career or college or professional. I've been very fortunate to coach a lot of outstanding athletes, outstanding players, male and female, and that gives me a chance to just be in the gym and try to get them better, even at a small degree, just to try to answer questions, push them to a level that maybe they didn't think was possible. Ultimately, I think at some point I'll probably into more of a bigger role of coaching. Like I said before, in the spring and summer, I get the opportunity to coach my seventh and fifth grade daughters, which is fun, and I love doing it. But as they get older and start maturing and getting not as they don't need dad as much, I think I'll probably look to do other things. Right now, I keep saying I'm very blessed and fortunate that I have the freedom to be around them a lot, and I love that. And so I don't want to, get into something that occupies
Yep.
all my time because I get to drop my kids off and drop them off at school, pick them up, coach them, be around them at night. So it's a luxury that I don't take for granted at all.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And the game needs you, but obviously your daughters need you more. But I know you're balancing it. You're balancing it. So, Trav, I got 5 rapid fire questions, and then we're gonna wrap up.
All right, perfect.
Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First one. What's one pregame ritual?
I guess I needed a nap, just a nap. I was never a big music guy. I hate getting to the arena too early because I sit there anxious. I always needed a nap as much as I could fall asleep the day of a game. But I try to get to the arena as late as the coach would let me, especially in Europe, because I hate the build up, the anxiety. I'd get not. I mean, I guess it was nerves because
Yeah.
you wanted to perform, and once the ball goes up, it's over. But
Yeah.
I took it really serious, and and so I hated the build up to the game. That's why I always loved like 12 like noon games because there's
Yeah.
no build up. You woke up, you went to shoot around, then the game was there.
Yep.
The overseas games were like 8, 9 o'clock, and it killed me.
All right. So you needed that nap.
I needed a nap.
I
Yeah.
got you. All right. Best basketball venue you've played in.
Uh, there's two.
Okay.
Madison Square Garden in the States is absolutely incredible, the best. And then overseas, I got the chance to play in Belgrade in Serbia, and there's 15,000 angry people, and they were chanting and throwing stuff at you, and there was about 300 armed guards, and it was a very intense atmosphere, and where you kind of felt some safety issues, but it was a great game and just an environment that if anyone has played overseas, if they've played in Belgrade against Partizan or Red Star, it's an incredible, incredible environment.
Did y'all get the dub?
We did. We lost. We
Ah,
lost like 115 to 110. It was like
oh
it
wow.
was the highest. It was incredible scoring, but thankfully, maybe we shouldn't have won. I don't know if we could have got out of there.
That's true. That's true. All right. Next one. Funniest teammate you've had.
Ooh, that's on the spot. James White was incredibly funny. I played with him overseas. You probably remember him from dunk
Yep.
contest.
Yep.
Actually, really funny, and he doesn't really. He is funny, but he doesn't look like it. Is Darius Johnson Odom, who played at Marquette, and I got
Yeah.
to play with him for a year overseas.
DJO.
He was, he's got that strong chin. And he looks mean. Don't let it fool you. He's got some in there that's mean, but he's a funny dude as well.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Shout out to DJO,
Yeah,
man.
he can. I'd go to war with him any day.
Dog. A dog. Yep. For sure. For sure. All right. Favorite basketball shoe that you've played in or to play in?
Kobe's. Any
Kobe's.
Kobe.
Easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah. The
Yep.
Kobe's were when I finally transitioned to like the lower cut model. I went Kobe's when I was overseas, and they're the most comfortable, and I think actually they look the best too.
Yep. No. Facts. Facts. All right. Last one. One word to describe your game.
I mean, we've talked. I think just competitor. I
Better.
think
For
that
sure.
sums it up the best. would try to do anything to help our team win, and just hated losing more than I really enjoyed winning. But just competitor, I think that would be a good word.
Man, hey, you hit it right on the head for sure, for sure. All right, man. Well, there we have it. Another episode, Leaf with the Legends, with my boy Travis Diener, Fond du Lac legend, Marquette University legend, Italian EuroLeague legend. All around good dude, man. Appreciate you for pulling up to the podcast.
Appreciate it, Leaf.
No
Anytime.
doubt, no doubt. As always, be legendary or be lost. Peace.